Did the unthinkable just happen? Caitlin Clark leaving the Indiana Fever is suddenly being whispered, and if there's truth behind these growing tensions, this could become the biggest controversy the WNBA has seen in years. But what's really going on behind the scenes may shock you.
Indiana Fever, they can't seem to do nothing right at this second. No decision they make is a decision that the majority of the Caitlin Clark fans are happy with. Not exactly sure what they're up to or what they're doing, but they're doing something and they're up to something. Is it going to lead to wins? That remains to be seen. Is it going to lead to championships? That remains to be seen. But one thing I do know, if this team fails to get to the WNBA Finals, this has been a massive failure.
The team that unexpectedly became the center of a basketball revolution is now flirting with the fastest way to lose it all, and somehow it is happening before the season even tips off. The Indiana Fever have the biggest draw in the sport with Caitlin Clark. Yet fans are already talking about walking away. How does a franchise mishandle momentum this massive? And if this keeps going, who really leaves first? The fans or the superstar?
Well, it's no surprise. The biggest concerns going into the WNBA season is, what if Stephanie White plays Caitlin Clark off the ball a few minutes a game? What if Aaliyah Boston gets hurt? Two valid concerns. What if Aaliyah Boston doesn't get hurt? What if having a healthy Caitlin Clark alone changes everything, the entire dynamics of this team? What if having Aaliyah Boston at the very top of her game and Kelsey Mitchell coming off an MVP type season?
It is almost remarkable how fast a team can go from becoming the center of a sports revolution to turning into the main character of its own controversy. And somehow the Indiana Fever have managed to do exactly that without even playing a significant game yet.
The Indiana Fever don't value Caitlin Clark. Stephanie White does not value Caitlin Clark in the way that she should. And it shows in the way that they talk about her, in the way that they utilize her, in the way that they surround her with players who don't really compliment her. I was watching Stephanie White's interview directly after the draft, and she mentioned something along the lines of Caitlin Clark can play in both positions. And they were going over whether or not Raven Johnson will be a good fit on the Fever. And Stephanie White's perspective was, well, Caitlin Clark can play in both positions. Kelsey Mitchell can play in both positions. So adding Raven Johnson makes sense because she'll be able to complement these players in both.
Now, here is the strange part nobody can quite wrap their head around. This was supposed to be the era where everything finally clicked. This was supposed to be the moment where the franchise rode the wave created by Caitlin Clark and turned it into wins, relevance, and maybe even a legitimate championship run.
The draft pick. So you're mad that fans, you're essentially saying, yo, the fans have been complaining about the draft picks, complaining about the players, complaining about Caitlin Clark's role on the ball, off the ball, all of this stuff. No, at the end of the day, we are consumers. We are the consumers, okay? And this is the whole thing we're gonna get into with Erica Wheeler too, coming at the fans, because everybody's out of pocket right now. But this Lynn Dunn thing is spooky because at the end of the day, we thought Lynn Dunn was coming back down to hover over Stephanie White to make sure things were being done right by Caitlin Clark. But
instead, what fans are watching unfold feels less like a master plan and more like someone repeatedly hitting the wrong buttons and hoping nobody notices. And the problem is, people are absolutely noticing. The expectations were never subtle.
Same thing we said. I don't know why y'all walking around with y'all nose in the earth like the feelings ain't mutual. Because they are. Do you really think any Indiana Caitlin Clark fan, Indiana Fever fan, do you think that we wanted her? No. But guess what? We in this situation now that 9 times out of 10 we not gonna get rid of. So we gotta stick it out together. We gotta put the differences aside.
When Caitlin Clark entered the league, she did not just bring talent. She brought attention, headlines, sold-out arenas, skyrocketing merchandise sales, and a level of visibility the Women's National Basketball Association has been chasing for years. The ripple effect was immediate. Ticket prices surged, broadcasts drew new audiences, and suddenly the Indiana Fever were not just another team trying to rebuild. They were the team everyone was watching. That kind of spotlight comes with pressure, but it also comes with a very simple responsibility. If you have the biggest star in the league, you build around her properly. You maximize the moment. You do not fumble it. And yet, here we are. Because while fans were busy imagining a smarter, sharper roster built to complement Clark's playmaking and shooting gravity, the Fever poured confusion onto an already raging fire. The Fever drafted a 6'4" sharpshooter in the second round, a player many analysts believed had late first-round value, someone who fits a very obvious need: size, spacing, versatility, the exact kind of piece modern basketball teams crave, especially when building around a guard like Caitlin Clark who thrives with shooters and floor spacing. So naturally, fans assumed she would be given a real opportunity. Instead, she gets placed on a developmental contract.
This is Caitlin Clark's breakout year, and she averages over 20 points, 10 assists, and gets the MVP of the WNBA. What if how the Indiana Fever played against the New York Liberty in the Commissioner's Cup is how the Indiana Fever play on the regular? What if the Indiana Fever win a championship? We can play the what if game all we want, but I think having a healthy Caitlin Clark alone changes everything, the entire dynamics of this basketball team. Having 3 superstars, not all-stars, superstars, Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell alone.
And that is where everything begins falling apart. A developmental contract is far more than a technical label. It brings restrictions, fewer games, limited chances, and most importantly, a ticking clock. After a short protection window, rival teams can step in and make offers. At that point, the Indiana Fever face a choice: either match the offer and finally give her a true roster spot or let her walk away, which raises the question fans keep asking. If she may end up on the active roster anyway, why not make that move now? That question has spread across social media, fan forums, and comment sections, growing louder with every passing hour. Because from the outside, it does not look like patience or long-term strategy. It looks like indecision. And this is not happening in isolation. It is unfolding while the Fever keep adding guards, building depth where the roster already feels crowded, while seeming to ignore obvious needs for size and shooting in the front court. That creates a roster imbalance difficult to defend, especially when the answer appears right there, waiting for a chance that never seems to arrive. And that is where the conversation moves from frustration into something much more serious.
It looks like she's coming at the fans now, and this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy, man. So it's just gotten to a point where it's almost like we don't know who we can look to. We don't know who we can trust from within the organization anymore. Because I mean, come on, man. You got Lynn Dunn. Like all of a sudden, you think it's not a coincidence that after the Indiana Fever have been getting bombed on for the front office decisions, they've been getting bombed on for drafting Raven Johnson at pick number 10. They've been getting bombed on. People been going off. Now she has a cryptic post about complainers and complaining and what's best for the team.
And now, it is not just about one player or one decision. It is about a pattern. It is about a front office that, in the eyes of many fans, keeps making moves that do not match the reality of its situation. A team handed the most marketable player in the league somehow still operates like it is searching for direction. And fans are beginning to push back in the only way they know, by threatening to walk away. There are people openly saying they are canceling tickets, canceling travel plans, backing out of hotel bookings made months in advance just to watch Caitlin Clark play. The same fans who helped arenas suddenly fill up out of nowhere. The national conversations did not magically appear. Clark became the engine driving all of it. And fans know that, which is why the underlying sentiment is growing louder and more direct with every passing day. If she leaves, they leave too. It sounds dramatic, but it is not as unrealistic as it seems. Sports history is filled with stars who carried entire fan bases with them. When they move, attention follows. Ratings shift. The energy changes.
The South Carolina Gamecocks fans, which are, like I say, the worst fan base in women's basketball. And then the Indiana Fever Caitlin Clark fans, which is the best fan base in women's basketball. We got to put our differences aside and come together. Because if we don't, then we just doing everybody a disservice. We already see how y'all treat Aaliyah Boston. So now, after a year or so, or after half a season and Raven doing good and she talking good about the organization and Caitlin Clark and everybody else? Are y'all gonna turn y'all back on her like y'all did Aaliyah Boston? Cause Aaliyah Boston ain't done nothing wrong.
So is this just another rumor blown out of proportion? Or is there real tension building behind the scenes in Indiana? And if Caitlin Clark ever did consider a move, what would that mean for the future of the WNBA? Let me know in the comments. Are fans overreacting, or is something bigger developing?